So this is part 2 of our mailbag video. It's kind of a mess all over the place with lots of things to talk about, totally unscripted, but we hope you get something out of it.
So yeah, I just thought I'd cut it off there and then restart it because for the next part, because the video is going to be quite long. So we were just talking about the female Doctor Who, all that kind of stuff, which is fine.
Well, like I say, when you're talking about the whole timeless child thing and how like shit it seems, it is basically an old plan they were going to do with Doctor Who back like just before it got cancelled. It's basically the Cartmel master plan kind of like repackaged just with a load of identity politics tagged on of like, but now the Doctor's female and the Doctor was originally female and then regenerated a lot of times into a lot of like very ethnic people. So even though you can kind of say like, okay, but every time we've seen the Doctor, he's been a white male, like why is he suddenly like a woman? It's like, no, but there's all these regenerations you haven't seen. It's like, okay, so you've taken an idea that was kind of dropped because it didn't really work and it would ultimately kind of defeat its own point because it answers too many of the questions it was meant to kind of re-ask. Because the whole idea of the master plan was like, okay, we're going to bring in this like more mysterious stuff about the Doctor, because by this point we know too much about his origins, like it's a bit boring. And then they decided, well, we're going to have to drop the master plan because ultimately it reveals too much the other way, because now we've changed a load of stuff, but we've also given you all the answers right off the bat, so it's kind of pointless, if that makes any sense.
Yeah.
So it's now like, yeah, we're going to repackage that, just this time with like some identity politics and some other random bullshit thrown in, which reads like bad fan fiction. And it's like, why are you surprised this didn't fly with anybody? What the fuck?
One other thing Paul was asking, this wasn't in the mailbag request, but he'd asked separately something to talk about. Something to do with every time the Doctor is regenerated between series, he's always wearing the same clothes, so he kind of regenerates within the clothes. The clothes don't regenerate because they're just clothes, hence he's always wearing the same thing. But then when Jodie Whittaker came into it, obviously she's a woman, she did regenerate into the clothes of the guy before, but then she changed into something else through choice. Yet when she's then regenerated back into David Tennant, the clothes changed as well, apparently. Do you know anything about that?
Like I said, that's why I was giving like the like this is what I've watched so far. I haven't seen the episode where like the regeneration has happened. It's kind of dumb because, like I say, it is like usually a thing. Like the Doctor will regenerate and will be wearing the tattered remnants of whatever the previous Doctor was wearing. And then we'll usually go off into the TARDIS like to kind of change his clothes into something that actually fits him. Because usually his like whole body size will have changed and everything, and like whatever's killed the Doctor has usually absolutely fucked up his wardrobe usually as well.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's a bit weird if they did that. But I guess it's also if it's like regenerated into his signature look. But yeah, just a bit weird.
Yeah, apparently they did that from what Paul was saying. I don't know if it was Russell T Davies had made a comment about they didn't want there to be any kind of like trans discussion because it's like completely irrelevant. If they'd have regenerated and David Tennant was wearing the clothes that she was wearing, which logically and in terms of the continuity, that's what would have happened. He would be wearing her clothes when he first appears, but they didn't want that to happen because then they would start a conversation about trans, which was completely unintentional and irrelevant, and wasn't where they were wanting to go. So you got to understand that.
Yeah, I was going to say that makes perfect sense to me, but at the same time, I think you've just started the argument you're wanting to avoid there.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, so that's part of the whole thing. I think he was wanting to stay away from any kind of wokery and just not go there. So I don't think it's that Russell T Davies is like anti-woke as such.
No, I mean he's LGBTQ and all that because he's gay. He's Russell T Davies. Also,
Yeah.
might be another reason he feels like a little bit more protected to like say what he actually thinks, because it's a little harder to cancel him. But if he thinks he's immune to cancelling, he's probably going to be in for a nasty like surprise.
Well, yeah. Well, there's quite a few people that are gay or whatever, or even trans, like Blair White. They get outed, or Peter Thiel as well. He's another one because he was a Trump supporter, but he was gay. Apparently, he's no longer gay. So because he was a Trump supporter, he was denounced as being no longer gay. So it does seem like it is a mutable characteristic or whatever, according to some. Owen Biden said, "If you don't vote for me, you ain't black." So again, figure that shit out. We're kind of going off on a side tangent there. This is what happens when they start to talk about identity politics. You stop talking about the thing that you're actually talking about, the show, you know.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, I think it's interesting that you said that, and I have heard similar like sentiments from other people, but it's usually not been somebody quite that like high profile. But just basically like, I say, even taking the politics out of it, it's like with all these like Disney Plus things and all these like shows that they're kind of shitting out, they just don't have the like seasoned writers to kind of keep up with it. So they're bringing in a lot of these new people with like, oh, they've got new ideas and they don't feel represented and they've got to like speak truth to power and all this kind of stuff. And it's like, okay, but they've missed the most important thing. They're there to make TV to entertain people.
Yeah.
Like, I don't watch a TV show to be like lectured to about like my privilege or something.
Yeah, I'll tell that to Frosk over at formerly over at G4. Don't know if we've ever really spoken about that much. I think we made a joke about it a few months ago, and then me and John did that 2-part video talking about the whole thing specifically. But yeah, Frosk, she's still doing the rounds as well, because that's another example of somebody who, well, not just her, but the whole network G4 thing just kind of collapsed, which you probably would have done anyway, because it was a terrible idea.
Yeah, also like blaming everybody but herself. Like, I know it was their fault that they didn't support me. It's like, bitch, weren't you like sending out tweets just after a round of firings that you were still in like employment?
Yeah,
Like, don't you think that was a bit shit for the other people you were working with? I wonder why they weren't supporting you, you horrible person.
yeah, just absolutely vile. But again, just going into the whole identity politics thing in the middle of the show and just kind of bringing it out there when there's no real context for it other than the fact that the person that's writing it or speaking it has got a chip on the shoulder and wants to bring something to the discussion that is completely, irrelevant. So,
well, like the amusing thing is, I don't know how true this is. Like, don't like necessarily quote me on this because I'm getting this off Midnight's Edge. But they were saying like there's a rumor doing the rounds that the only reason G4 got brought back was basically because some like the kid of some executive at the company that was doing it was like shagging Olivia Munn at the time, and like she wanted the like show back. So that's one of the things she was like famous for.
yeah.
And so he like set it all up because he was getting some of that.
Yeah.
And then when she like dumped him, they were kind of stuck with it.
Right. Okay.
Like I say, that is like rumor, but it also does line up like uncomfortably like possible.
Yeah, Olivia Munn, she's a little bit of a funny one. I think she made some accusations against, was it Brett Ratner? Something about going to his trailer. That was. I shouldn't go too much into detail because I might end up getting the details wrong. But I remember her stories didn't really make sense hugely. Like when you're going in to see somebody and they all of a sudden start being a bit of a pervert. It's like, well, did they just completely out of the blue, or did you go there and start something knowingly, and now years later that you can't, you're not the fairest of them all. You want to bring it to light now. It's not how consent works. But yeah, she's a bit of a weird one. So yeah, what else? Any other points about Doctor Who?
I say, as a fan, like I've noticed there are a lot of people who are like very like, oh thank God Russell T Davies is back. It's like, okay, like it's interesting that he's back, and I'm definitely not against it. Like hopefully it is going to be like a new direction from all the shit we've had at least recently. But also, I don't forget that some of the shittier stuff that happened in like the first few series, like that was under his watch, like farting aliens and like what was it, Love and Monsters, which I think is the worst possible episode of Doctor Who. Like these things all happened under his like tenure, so like let's not get too excited. Like the guy ran Torchwood into the fucking ground, which was his like baby. Like I don't necessarily think he's the great savior.
Yeah. Did he come into it when what's his name? The first one when they brought it back originally.
Russell T Davies, like, and to give him his fair credit, Russell T Davies is the guy who got it back on TV. Like he was the guy that was running it through like Eccleston and what's his face, the guy that brought back
David Tennant.
David Tennant, yeah, name from forgetting motherfucker. And then like after that, it was gee, I forgot his name now. But yeah, there's been like 3 big showrunners. There was Russell the Davies and yep, can't remember his fucking name. And then there was Chris Chinballs.
Yeah.
But yeah, I kind of prefer the second kind of era to some ways with like Matt Smith and kind of all that stuff, like more than the Russell T Davies era.
Yeah,
Moffat, that's his name. Fucking Moffat, that was the guy who was running it. Yeah. So it was Russell T Davies, then it was Moffat, then it was Chinballs. Chinballs lasted for like 2 seasons and some specials. Honestly, the last season he did was so bad I didn't even bother tracking down the specials. It's like, fuck it, I'm not paying for BBC just for this shit.
Yeah. Well, I found that Olivia Munn story, and there's definite Topher joke in this as well. So should we end this just by with for Paul?
Yeah, what the time that Buff kind of went into Topher's trailer and Topher finished himself off and came in Buff's face?
That's pretty similar to that's pretty much the story that it was that she'd alleged that, and it don't make sense to me because it's out from the way it kind of reads. She walked in and all of a sudden he just started doing it and finished, which, you know, he's either really good at it or really bad at it, you know, because I'm assuming that if somebody does that to you, you run straight out of there. I mean, you know, you wouldn't, it's not like you go in there saying, well, yeah, I'd really like a part in this film. And then I know what I know what I need to do to get this, and other women aren't willing to do it, but I am. So there we go. It's a fair trade. I mean, it's still sleazy as hell, don't get me wrong, but
yeah, like I say, certainly nobody looks good in that kind of situation. It's like, yeah, you shouldn't have to do that, but then again, if I feel sorry for somebody, it's more the person who said no and didn't get the part that I feel sorry for.
And that's the thing, and these guys carry on doing because there's always women that will go along with it. And it sounds, I would have guessed she's one that has gone along with it and then regretted it afterwards. And
that's always the thing with Rose McGowan. It's like, I'm sorry, and like people would like absolutely crucify me for saying this. Like, she was a really shit actress. She was just terrible. A pretty face. Like, she absolutely sucked.
Yeah.
And I'm pretty sure she got most of her parts by doing things nobody else was fucking willing to do.
Yeah. So yeah, the Olivia Munn story he's very reminiscent of that time when the Buff walked in the Topher's trailer, and you know, it was more than meets the eye. Let's just put it that way. But
something ended up in the Buff side, that's for sure.
Yeah, well, Buff might be watching this, so we don't want to bring.
It's like, come on, Buff! Like, why didn't you just get right out of there? Like, why'd you just stick around? Like, we know you were into it, Buff. Like, come on.
Well, Buff wanted the role in the film, and but as it turned out, there was no film, and Toph was lying. So, but anyway, speaking of Buff, it is his birthday coming up. I think it's on Monday, actually. So, Buff, you know what time it is. The birthday pants are out. So Topher sent his birthday pants. I think he's losing a bit of weight, is Toph. Yeah, these are definitely looking quite a bit smaller this year. So, yeah, good on Topher, you know, good on him. Also, to Paul and Lucy as well, it's Paul and Lucy's birthday. Paul being the guy who sent the mailbag question in. It's their birthday this weekend. Coincidentally, they just have similar birthdays. So we do it every year this time of year. The birthday pants come out for those guys. So there you go.
Yes.
Anyway, right. Well, we'll leave it there. I think this video's gone for quite a while, and we've talked about things massively off topic. But yeah, Paul wanted us to do this, so it's a mailbag request. So it's a mixed bag, more than a mailbag. But any other news from the core?
No, just happy birthday to everyone, and sorry, Buff.
Yeah,
I do feel like I should end every single segment I'm in with sorry, Buff, given the number of jokes.
Exactly. Yeah. Right. Anyway, I'll cut it short there. So I might do a bit of an outro, so I'll just cut this short.
So thanks for watching that. Sorry it was a bit of a mixed bag. That's one of the things that happens when we do an unscripted video. Lots of different ideas kind of coming together. We threw it together at the last minute with this one. So we hope you enjoyed it anyway. Lots of different points to be made. You can check us out at brandxreviews.com. We have a website that follows culture, war, news and entertainment stuff as well, so it's all relative.